They're in formation there.
I know, but they just keep coming.
You're not going to get to experience a storm. And so we just agreed we have to institute a rule. You will not be allowed to take any pictures of Cape Horn. Binoculars, there is a monument up on the top there. It's a Chilean station. They've got a radar outpost and they monitor traffic coming around. And there's a cross up there, and a statue of an albatross in relief.
Is that Chilean territory?
Yeah. Chilean territory. We left your homes, or you all left your homes in the United States November 30th, expecting to fly to Ushuaia. You arrived in the airport and ushered to our ship that was awaiting just after the repairs, the emergency repairs, I guess, if you will, at the dry dock in Buenos Aires. All of that makes up for a whole interesting experience in its own. But then we got on board the ship, and you folks came aboard, I guess, with smiles and cheers, and were set to go. We left that afternoon from Buenos Aires. I think it was about day, correct me if I'm wrong, was it day 4 at sea? No, the evening of day 3, I think. We were silent, and then we were very excited because we were now in the Drake Passage, into the Southern Ocean, and beyond that, even in some senses. They call the area there that we just passed through the Roaring Forties, and then we got into the 50-degree latitude, and some call that the Furious 50s. And it wasn't too furious when we were there. It was pretty happy to see us. And then we continued on south, getting past 60. Most of the convergence was where we saw the pod of 15 or so fin whales, all different sizes. Some of those were definitely young. Some were full-grown adults. So that was King George Island that evening. We arrived at this corner, I think it was around a little after midnight, and we sailed along the inside, or the Bransfield Strait side of the South Shetland Islands. Up here in this area at Penguin Island, and spending the day in the area of King George Island. But when we realized we were making such good time, we figured a good way to ensure that we could get down to the peninsula and sight and maybe land on the continent itself, we figured it was a good idea to keep sailing hard that night and make it as far south as we could for the morning's landings. So we bypassed King George Island and we sailed into Half Moon Island very early in the morning. This strait here is called the McFarland Strait, and this little crescent-shaped island, that's where we landed. This is Livingston Island, and I believe that's Robert Island right there. At Half Moon Island, you remember we landed in that small cove, very sheltered, and we had a very light breeze. We climbed up the deep snow there and saw the wonderful view and spent some time with our first penguins up close and personal. We had good conditions there. We had about 5 knots of wind. In fact, we were talking the other day, we had very light wind in the whole experience except for maybe about 45 minutes there in Hannah Point. Glad that you all got a little taste of that and that you got your chance. From Half Moon Island, we then set sail again. I think it was around, it's written right there actually, it's around 7:30 in the morning. We were getting ready for breakfast, but just before we went into breakfast, right around this corner here, just in on the shore, we saw 2 humpback whales. And they were particularly exciting because it's our first time there this year, but in the last several years we'd see them in that bay quite a bit. So it's nice to see that they're back again. They made it all that way, and they're ready to spend the summer here also. We sailed along this shore of Livingston Island and then turned to the right, or almost to the north. When we sailed through the opening, by the way, is about 1,500 feet across. On the right side going in, those cliffs are about, I think it was 1,200 feet. And we sailed through, made a hard right turn into Whalers Bay, the site of an abandoned whaling station called Hecla Whaling Station, which was used by the Norwegians and then by the British. We were blessed again with good water. Sometimes this area of the Bransfield Strait can be quite rough also. But we had a pretty smooth sailing here. And then somewhere in this area here, it cleared right up again. And we had some of us on the bridge watched the sunset and had terrific visibility in getting our first sights. Wonderful icebergs in this area. from Trinity Island here and all the way on down, and all the crazy shapes and pinnacles and arches and everything. And then we started sighting the continent. There were a few of you on the bridge by the dock, and
some penguins over there too.
A couple of minke whales, yes, and the Gen 2 penguins that were looking after the station for the winter, or at least for the spring.
Was that station though? I thought it was abandoned.
It'll be open in a few weeks, later on in the morning. I suspect that they were just dropping the staff off for the summer there, and then hightailed it out of there. And with a blow of the horn, they took off. We thought about going there, but you wouldn't actually have landed on the continent to go there. It would have been a station visit, but it's not officially attached to Antarctica. So we wouldn't want there to be any debate about your stepping foot on Antarctica. We then got back aboard the ship, and we started through across Anvor towards Lemaire, but he'd made a right turn and sailed through there in Herrera.
Are both sides of those islands called the same thing? The river is...
Are both sides of the islands?
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole island's...
The strait, the channel. It's called the river, the whole thing is.
Yeah.
Not once.
And you can see why it has become so famous. It's quite dramatic here. Sitting at the southern tip of the Americas. Straight ahead,
it's Cape Horn,
home.
the island of Horn.
2,000 miles. Off to the right, in one of the lower areas of the island, you'll see the statue. We were referring to it as kind of a diamond shape hidden beneath the sky of an albatross. That's what this station is as well.
Sure. Yeah, like this we find out very back to
5 minutes, folks, we will be at our closest point to make the maneuver known as ramming the horn.
And there are the brave people from Turtletown, Tennessee. Or is it North Carolina at that point?
right dead ahead. Nice. Cape Horn, very dramatic.
Так, не оставляйте только двери.
This is the southernmost part of South America right here. This is the Cape Horn.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a really very dramatic piece down there. And I suppose
Talking about
over there?
He was going to be straight ahead soon. I'll tell you about that. When it goes back up on the right. Just straight ahead now.
coming through.
oh, this must be the frozen section over here.
That's an albatross, folks. And that is right in front of the Isle of Horn. We're going around the Cape. We just turned the boat. I'm scanning the whole island. That's a bay we just passed. And the very tip there is a settlement. That is an albatross statue dedicated to all the sailors who have lost their lives in this famous wind-blown stretch of the southern ocean where the Atlantic meets the Pacific.